Everybody, thank you so much. We'll let you kind of trickle back in here. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I want to thank Los Serranos and everybody involved here for hosting us and providing generous support today. And thank you very much for doing so. It's really special to be here and to introduce you to another great speaker. Josh Heptig is the golf superintendent for San Luis Obispo County. And he's going to take us on an interesting journey, a little bit different than what we've been listening to so far today. It's not as much of a story of drought, but it is a water story. It involves prisons, go-karts, monarch butterflies, and sounds like something out of a Carl Hiaasen novel if he lived in California instead of Florida. So I can't wait to hear what he has to say and what his story is. And if you ever want to go take a tour and learn about the monarch butterflies, Josh Heptig is your man. Please, Josh, come on up and tell us all about it. Thank you.
That's a tall order to live up to there. Great speaker. We've got a bunch of notes here we're going to go through, so there's going to be a test at the end, too. I'm just kidding. Everybody in the room seen the movie Caddyshack? Know the movie Caddyshack? I talked to some of my younger staff members in our pro shop. I'm like, what are you talking about? They don't know Top Gun either. But you know, every golf club has the cast and characters that are in Caddyshack. Everybody's got their Dr. Beeper, their Judge Smales, their Spalding, and those of us, myself included, superintendent. So I'm speaking on behalf of myself. There's a Carl Spackler inside of each one of us where we just want to go hide and mess with C4 and blow stuff up. But that being the case, so what I'm going to talk about here today is community engagement. I'm going to bring the Caddyshack thing. We're going to circle back to that in a little bit later. But basically with the community engagement, I'm going to just describe a little bit of myself. My grandpa was an ag and dairy farmer back in Kansas. That's originally where I came from. Made my way out here to California after spilling a beer on a German lady in a bar in Manhattan, Kansas. Followed her out here. She's a professor at Cal Poly. And I luckily was able to land a job managing 3 golf courses for the county of San Luis Obispo with 3 very different situations, but all 3 have one thing that's very much in common with each other, and that's reclaimed water is our source of water at all 3 of our properties in some form or fashion. Chalk Mountain Golf Course is our Parkland American-style golf course, the one there on the left-hand side of the screen that you're seeing. That one has water where the mutual water company dumps water into the groundwater to recharge the groundwater. They then pull that water back out through their whole processes, for which I have no idea what the purpose is or why they do what they do, but they deliver us 400 acre-feet of water almost every single day so we can irrigate our golf course and keep it thriving. Morro Bay Golf Course, the water is tied to a prison system in which the water is put down a creek system that provides habitat for steelhead before it empties into the ocean. At the end of that inlet is my golf course, in which we have the right to be able to pull that water out. There is no groundwater available because it's all brackish because we are so close to the ocean. So we have what's considered a prescriptive right. We've got a medicated use of water before it goes into the ocean. And then our third golf course, the second one's an oceanside golf course. The third one's Dairy Creek, in which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. Our water was there, but our water there is strictly straight direct delivery straight from the prison of everything that's left over after it goes down the creek to the fish, as well as our pullout for Morro Bay Golf Course downstream. We get the leftovers. For the first 20 years of its existence, 25 years really, everything worked perfectly. The golf course was green. Everybody lived together. Everything worked just fine. Then in 2014, 2015, we came up with the Houston, we've got a problem situation. So in 2009, the state of California, the federal government actually came into the state of California and told the state that your prison system is being overrun. It exceeds capacity in every aspect of where it's at. Our local prison was running at 195 to 200% occupancy rate, so instead of 1 person per cell, they had 2. They were allowing prisoners, depending upon what their workload was, to shower up to 12 to 15 times a day. Funny, interesting story is that when a prisoner's toilet overflows inside of their cell, they get out to go into general population so that they can get out in the sunshine. So what the prisoners would do is that they would take paper towels, clog up their toilet, flush it a whole bunch of times, the toilet would overflow, they'd go out into general population, come back in, rinse and repeat. and just keep doing that. So they've actually put toilet sensors on the toilets. The toilets can now only flush 1 time per day. So solve the problem. So here you got a picture of 2014, the golf course where it was nice and green. Obviously this is in February in the rainy time of the year. This is a summertime picture designed by John Harbottle. Great use of space, great use of water resources to just maintain and irrigate the areas of the in-play areas. As I said, AB 109 passed. The federal government said, you need to get your prisons realigned. California said, well, it's a huge revenue source for us. The government said, if you don't realign them, we will realign them and make them a federal prison system. Therefore, California changed all of its laws. A lot of those laws and things where we released a lot of prisoners into the general public and now call them misdemeanors. That's where we're living with some of those things right now from a social aspect, but that all became aware of how the prison system was being run. Move forward to 2017, this is the same picture earlier of that nice green lush area of the golf course. It looks very similar to Justin's photos he showed earlier at Paso Tiempo. We were kind of going through the same issues at about the exact same time. The overview, we lost half the prison population, so it went from 7,200 prisoners down to 3,700 prisoners in a 6-month period of time. Couple that with a drought situation, which we were going through at the period of time, and we lost 60% of our water in the course of a 6-month period of time. I work for government. I'm a bureaucrat, not because I want to be, but because I have to be. We don't move that fast. We can't get anything from one office to the other in 6 months period of time, let alone change how we use water and everything else. So just a little bit of, we work for a government, so you ask me for information, I got to spill my guts within 10 days. So this is our revenue streams based upon the 2014 versus 2017 as far as what it did to our overall business plan. So we lost 50% of our rounds of golf, 51% of our revenue, and there's the various different revenue streams that are in there. The expenses side of that is, since we are a government, we are unionized as far as labor. That's 55% of my budget on the expense side is labor. So we can't just go around and turn people loose and let people go. So we let a lot of our seasonal labor go. That only amounted to about $80,000 worth of actual cost savings in a $2.3 million budget. That's pittance. So we seriously had a huge problem. So the big question was, what now? So we went to the Board of Supervisors. We asked them for some guidance. They did what politicians do. They kicked the can down the road and said, go do some studies and figure out what options there are and come back to us. So we went out and we did a bunch of studies. One of the things we did is we established an advisory committee made up of 11 different members. 6 of those members were golf related, myself being one of them. We had the collegiate golf coach and a bunch of our club members. And then we had other individuals that were interested recreation advocates within our community that we brought onto that committee. 11 people is a lot of people to try and get any sort of consensus. It was a lot of fun. We had 16 meetings. We had 8 that were strictly with the advisory committee. We had 4 meetings where we had general public meetings at the golf course. This was the very first meeting here. This is Andy Staples. He was our golf consultant. If you don't know Andy, he's got the community links, and he's busier than, I don't know what you want to relate him to right now. But we didn't know how many people were actually going to show up to that first meeting. We didn't know if the golfers were going to show up. We knew that they were mad, they were frustrated, they were upset, but we didn't know what else to expect. So we set up 60 chairs. Occupancy of the room is about 350, by the way. The fire marshal sets the code. Thank God the fire marshal didn't show up because we had close to 400 people there at that meeting. In the back half of that room is the golfers, and everybody on the front half of the room is everybody else that was the non-golfers. About 45 minutes into the meeting, after we were talking, the golfers got up and left out because all they heard was, we're closing down a golf course, and they basically said, screw it, we're out. The other people all came with solutions. They were organized. They knew what they wanted to do. And so we continued that meeting. We had 3 other ones, but it was very interesting and enlightening on my aspect to see how engaged or how organized the golf, or lack thereof, that the golf community actually was. And we'll get into that in just a little bit as well. So the results of all those meetings, and then the 4 Board of Supervisors meetings, which ultimately in 2018, they made a choice and a decision and gave us some direction. And what you see here on the map is the large highlighted area in the middle, I don't know what you want to call that, sort of trapezoid shape. That's our 750-acre park in which the golf course resides, along with the botanic gardens, some ball fields, a dog park, RV camping spaces. All that already existed in El Troro Regional Park. The golf course took up about 120 acres of land that the golf course resides on. There's only 89 acres that was actually irrigated. So ultimately, all the other blobs that you see on there are different things like zip lines, go-karts, mini golf, top tracer range, camping cabins. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. And then we also want to be a BMX pump track, skills courses, trailhead for a BMX track that gets up into the West Cuesta grade, which will enhance the aspect from a mountain biker standpoint. Just some of that stuff's already been going on in the past, but we don't know about it because it's not necessarily legal. They're crossing, trespassing different lands to get to where they're trying to go. So it just formalizes everything. So we have our marching orders, and so we've since then begun to march through and add things to it. So this is our top tracer range, a picture of our top tracer range. We've got a disc golf course. I missed that earlier. So we've had a couple professional tournaments already. And the disc golfers come out and they're paying $5 a round. So it's been a supplement. So since December, we made almost $25,000 just off of charging disc golfers coming out and playing disc golf. In the works, we've got some camping cabins on the horizon. Zip lines, those are 2 contracts that are already done. So the cabins, I'm working with them right now to get those cabins in place and working with the zip line community to build the zip lines and get those engineered and done. And then future plans involve miniature golf course and a electric go-kart track, BMX skills courses and pumps tracks like I talked about earlier, and then we'll get to what our revenues look like right now. But our ultimate goal with the whole project, and as we went through the various different public meetings, is we realized that we have a 750-acre park. When you go into the park, it bifurcates at the entryway, and you go right to go to the park, and you go left to go to the golf course. Very similar to what most of our golf courses do. We put barriers and walls so people don't know what else is going on in there. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. Don't pay attention to the guy behind the curtain. But we found out in our meetings that the park users didn't actually know that there was a golf course next door, and the golfers didn't know that there was parkland on the, right next door to the other side. So we realized that people weren't going in the right direction. So really what our whole process was here was to engage our community as a whole, try and catch that other 90% of the community and find out what is it that we can do. How can we bring something to the golf course in hopes, in an egotistical way, we wanted to try and turn them into golfers. So that's kind of how we started with everything. But these are the revenues where we are now. So going back to the 2014, those are the same numbers that we looked at. 2021 was our first full year of the Top Tracer range being in. Quite honestly, had I known what the potential Top Tracer range was, I would not be a county employee standing in front of you right now, as I would own a few of those of my own. You can see the information on there. So our rounds of golf, actually, we did more rounds of golf as a 9-hole property last year than we ever did in the course of the 25-year history of being an 18-hole property. So we've actually done more, and our trajectory is pointing higher than that at this point in time, even through the rest, or for 2022. Revenue was higher. That revenue was just a shade, maybe like $50,000 or $60,000 less than our highest watermark point of revenue in an 18-hole golf property. Greens fees, obviously, it's a pretty substantial number there for a 9-hole property at $600,000. It's still 31% down, and that's mostly essentially the fact that we weren't making $32 per round, but we're making about $16 per round as a 9-hole golf course. Membership slid a little bit. Cart fees, 30% decline, just in the ridership of players, and got a lot of singles and things like that coming out. But you'll notice the driving range, and it's really driven by the Top Tracer range. You got to take all these numbers with a grain of salt as well, because we had COVID, and that all golf courses across the country really just jumped in COVID. We saw a 25% increase across all of our 3 golf properties just in the COVID time frame. So Darren gets to where I really want to kind of talk collectively as a group. As I look out across the group here, I see kind of what I do when I go talk at other golf conferences and things like that. So we've got a few ladies in the group. We've got a few minorities and different colored skins. But for the most part, I don't know where I heard this at. I heard it at a golf conference, but we are very pale, male, and stale. Oftentimes, I'm the youngest individual that's sitting in a lot of these rooms. I went and talked a couple years at Hilton Head at a conference down there for a waste management type of situation, and I was the guy that was dumping trash cans, because we've been deemed one of the first zero-waste golf courses in the United States and possibly in the world at Dairy Creek. But it's always interesting to me to go see who is making our decisions in our industry, and oftentimes it's very, very similar look of people that are out there. And so the thing that we really have to fight in our industry is this perception versus reality, right? So I give these butterfly talks, as Jeff had alluded to. It's one of the highlights of my job, truly. I get together with my daughters, who are 12 and 14. We take a group of people out, usually somewhere between 80. Our biggest group's about 180 people. We actually had more people out on a golf course looking at butterflies than actually played the golf course the day that we actually did that tour. But we talk about all the good things that all of us intrinsically know that golf does and is. The 90% of the population that we don't ever talk to has no clue about any of that crap that we do, because that's literally what they think of it is it's just crap. That they don't come to golf, they don't play golf, they really truly couldn't care less about golf. We actually had a lady come out to Dairy Creek that as soon as she came on property, I happened to be in the clubhouse that day, and she just looked lost, and I just introduced myself and said, hey, is there something I can help you with? It looks like you're here for a purpose, but can I help guide you? She said, you know what, I know where I'm going. I don't care to talk to you. And she said, actually, if you'd talked to me a month ago, this was in February or March of 2020, right when the pandemic hit, she said, if you'd have told me a month ago that I'd ever come to a golf course, I'd have told you you're nuts. I'd hate everything you stand for. You waste water. You overuse pesticides. You do all this stuff that I just absolutely hate. She's a 4-day-a-week golfer now. She spent $4,000 worth of merchandise, bought clubs, bought clothes, bought everything else, and she absolutely loves it. She fell in love with it. But she'd never been to a golf course because of all these things that she'd either heard or come up with in her head, whatever that is. And those are the things that we've absolutely got to change. Anybody think that you'd want your golf course, having that on your golf course? Anybody ever seen that picture or know where that's from? Scotland. That's the home of golf. That's St. Andrews. Do you know on St. Andrews on Sundays the only activity that's not allowed on the golf course? Golf. It is a park. They invite the community. I was out there with Gordon McKee before the 2015 U.S. Open. I was there 10 days beforehand. I was supposed to have been the last round of golf that went through before the pros played, but the debacle that happened at Chambers Bay, the RNA said, nope, you're done. That would have been the coolest experience of my life. I'm still bitter about that. But this is what every Sunday looks like. They have kids come out, they build castles and sandboxes, families come out with picnic blankets, they sit out there with baby buggies, bicycles. I saw some kid with like 12 dogs on a leash that was walking through the golf course, but they literally opened the golf course as a park. The Himalayas course still operates as the 36-hole miniature golf course. But I think if most of us in this room thought about having kids come onto the golf course and playing in the bunkers and doing things like that, it'd be like, holy no. So, but we're actually considering doing this at Dairy Creek Golf Course, where we close the golf course down on Sundays, one Sunday out of every month, and just invite the community out, have a party, bring out some bounce houses, do something to allow people to come out and walk the golf course, go check it out. We've got 40 sheep that roam the golf course to manage our out-of-play areas. They're there all day of the week, 365 days a year. We put them in pens and we move them around. We've got a shepherd that helps us with that. But it's just another aspect. We've been on the newspapers more often because of those sheep versus any other aspect that we've ever done as a golf entity. So all of us know intrinsically all these great things that we do. You know, we've got the monarch butterflies at one of my properties. We used to have the biggest population in the state of California that nobody knew about because nobody was invited to ever come out and look at them. We've changed that, and we're now inviting people to come out. We bring wildlife. We have all kinds of minorities, all kinds of different walks of life that come to our golf properties on every single day. Most of the people that don't play golf, or if golf is not part of their culture, they're missing out. And we do a good job of internally discussing these different topics and things within our own silos in the golf industry, but we've got to start talking about why and what and how we do things outside of that, especially when it comes to issues such as golf or in water. Sorry, not golf, but water. If most of the population looks at us as being people that abuse water and overuse water and don't care about how much water or any of those things that we use, we're not going to get a whole heck of a lot of support in the public opinion polls, and we've got to start changing some of that stuff. So to kind of bring it back to the Caddyshack thing is that the worst thing we've got to worry about is having the 1812 overture start to play, and you got some knucklehead out running around there dumping C4 in the holes and running hoses and snakes and everything down there, and we got explosions going all over. We got to save this industry. We got to keep this thing going, and we all got to come together and do this collectively, because none of us can do it on our own. So with that, I'll get off my bully pulpit. Craig, did I do okay? Okay, good. Open for questions, whatever you want to do. Discussion.
Yeah. If we have any questions, I know I have one for Josh, if anybody wants to come up to the microphone. But I'm curious about the woman you mentioned that had this conversion. What do you think specifically was the difference with her? Was it water? Was it just the overall way you operate the facilities?
No, I actually asked her that exact same question, and her answer was that it was fun. She never anticipated that golf would be fun. She's like, you're chasing a white stick, and I envision that in any sport or recreational activity that you do. If you were to be an alien looking down on a football field or a golf course, like, what the heck are they doing? But she never thought that would be an enjoyable experience, and she came out and she realized what golf is. It's the same as what all of us in this room, why we're passionate about the game.
Question?
Hi, I'm Azucena Maldonado, the founder of Latina Golfers Association, and I love everything you're doing. And it's been my fantasy about saving the monarch butterflies and bringing them to golf courses, and you're doing that. I think
they chose us. We didn't choose
Well,
them.
there you go. They were there. But now that they're going extinct, I think that we can be proactive as golf courses to help save them and bring them and do what you have done at your golf course. Can you just give us a little something about that and how we can help?
Well, actually, if you were to go up and down the state of California, there are a number of golf courses in the state actually have monarchs. It's just that we don't open our doors to allow people to come out and actually see them and create a program to be able to do that. I'm in a unique situation as Kingston Leong's our entomologist. He's a former Cal Poly professor, and he'd been studying this with my predecessor previously. So really, it's just about knowing where the monarchs are at, developing a program, and it doesn't have to be monarchs. It can be anything. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of different programs that we do similar to that. It's just being welcoming and opening. So, if you want to talk or even come down for a tour or come up to do a tour at Morro Bay sometime in the fall, I'm open to do that too. So welcome anybody to come and join us for that.
And having the butterflies there, does that change people's perception in your experience on these tours of the golf course being a place that's wasteful to one that's harmful or that's beneficial to the environment and to the community?
Yeah, I think absolutely it does. And really, I kind of opin everybody in that way, or kind of gear them up towards that. At the beginning of the conversation, I talk about the fact that we've got butterflies on the golf course, and who's a golfer? Invariably, it's 8 to 9% of the people that show up are golfers. And then I ask them, what do you think about the fact that there's a threatened species in the middle of a golf course, and the whole place just kind of goes silent. It's like everybody's kind of looking at each other. It's like, who wants to be the first one? And so I just say, I got thick skin. I have really thick skin being in this industry, so let me start. It's like, we waste water. We apply tons of chemicals and pesticides. We do this, that, and the other, and you just start seeing a lot of heads bobbing and doing this kind of thing. And invariably at the end of the tour, there's two things. So we start this at 10 o'clock because the butterflies typically do what they call a fly out about 11 o'clock. So we take about 30 to 45 minutes to get up to the butterflies. They're all clustered into one big, huge cluster. They're about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle when you got 30,000 butterflies that are all stuck together. And it's audible when they take off. And so I'm sitting in front of the butterflies. I'm telling people this is why we do this tour at this time. And then all of a sudden I start hearing the butterfly wings, and I see everybody's eyes get really big because they're doing a fly out right as I'm doing this. And at the end of it, I invariably hear people start talking about, well, we're going to go have lunch because it's about 1 or 11 or 12:30 or so. And I said, well, we've got a great restaurant up at the clubhouse. Go grab a wrap, grab a hot dog, go whatever it is that you like. And they said, well, we're not golfers. We're not members of the club. So there's that whole element that I have people coming up to me saying, I had no idea that golf courses could do this. I had no idea that golf courses even cared, that they're stewards of the land. There's just a lot of things that doing those kind of interactions, they're very rewarding from a golf course owner or representative standpoint. But I think it really helps the general population begin to understand who we are, and what we can be, and really what we are.
Any other questions? I do have one more. Do you have any signage on the property telling people anything about the water story with the prison and anything like that people can see and take in?
We do. We have had throughout the whole process, when we were engaging the community in all this stuff, we had a lot of different displays and things up, sent out a lot of email blasts to all of our parks users. We've got an email database of about 100,000 people. So we were sending all that information out that way. Now that we've kind of made our way, we've got things happening, we're more talking about what's to come and flipping that into the fact of, we got dealt some lemons and now it's time to make some lemonade and let's go have some fun together and let's picnic. So,
cool. Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.